What's up everyone, my name is Lonnie Payne. Got a video of all the equipment I use when I restore a pinball machine. Thought I'd kind of put a list together, give you some ideas if you're looking to restore. And if you got some ideas you think that I might use, leave them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, let's get going.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
First piece of equipment I'll talk about is my WPC test kit. It's basically a pinball machine in a box. I actually just use a metal toolkit from Harbor Freight as the shell, and I kind of bought all the parts to make it out of a pinball machine. It's got a transformer, a soundboard, I put a speaker, coin door, switches, everything you need. I can basically simulate a pinball machine. So any board I'm working on, I can put it in there, test it, and I don't have to go in and out of the board on the pinball machine. I can leave it all on the test bench. Makes it so much easier. So let's take a look. All right, here is the WPC kit. Like I said, it's in a metal toolbox from Harbor Freight. But you open it up, and basically it's a pinball machine in a box. Got your DMD, got the main CPU board, and then, of course, all your connections. And you got all your controls there. Of course, you plug this into the back. Got a plug computer port in the back, like a regular WPC game. So you plug that in, then you just got your power on and off switch, and you turn this thing on, and it'll boot up just like a regular game. I usually use the Twilight Zone ROMs in there, just because they use so many features on there. I have a couple other ROMs that I have, just in case I want to test a different game or something. But I got the soundboard, I got the display driver board, got all the coin door stuff here, and then your transformer. And basically you'll end up putting a WPC driver board on the side and hooking it up, doing every single test that you can do on the machine. It's pretty cool because it allows you to fix the whole board without ever having to put it in and out of the machine. You can do it all right there on your desk until you're satisfied everything's done. I did the same thing with a System 11 based on the same type of setup. All the parts you need to make a pinball machine in this box. Let's take a look. All right, here's the System 11 kit, pretty much the same as the WPC. Just has the System 11 components in it. All the connectors, and then it's got the power supply, soundboard, all the push buttons for the coin door. It's got the same setup for the plugs in the back, and a speaker. And I forgot there's a speaker in the WPC as well. And so, like I said, it's everything. You just put your main CPU board out here and all those little test things on it. You can just test anything you need to do and fix everything as you go. When I first got in the hobby, I sent all my boards off to be fixed and decided I was going to learn how to fix them, and decided that I needed something like this to keep me from having to put a board in and out of a machine 3-4 times before I finally got everything nailed down. So these things really come in handy. They're not cheap to build, but man, I've really used them a lot. It's kind of cool. I kind of joked with a buddy of mine, I'd love to try and get one of these through airport security. I don't think I'd make it, but it'd be interesting. But that's a System 11 kit. And if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to contact me either in the comments below, or I'll put my contact information down in the notes down at the bottom as well. Now we'll look at all the little parts that go with simulating the rest of the pinball machine. Got the 64 switch matrix, which is a push button for every switch, so you can go right through the whole thing. You can see if any switch on your board's not working. Got an 8x8 LED that simulates every lamp on the board, so you can go through all your tests. Real easy to see if a row or column is out or if a single lamp's not working. Then there's some dip switches for special solenoids. There's also some lights that you plug right into the solenoid connectors that have a bank of lights on them, so when every solenoid fires, a little light shows up. And these things are great because if you're having a problem with your actual pinball machine before you start tearing it apart, you can actually plug these things right into the board, and you know exactly from that point if it's in the playfield itself or in the board. So before you even start working, you can narrow down exactly what you're looking for, whether it's on the board or somewhere under the playfield. These things really easy to make, or you can buy them from certain manufacturers if you don't want to make them. But you know, they saved me so much time by doing a simple, quick test, and I can figure out exactly where the problem's at. All these, and you can tell they're all labeled by what plug they plug into, but those are LEDs, so you plug those into the solenoid boards, and every time you have a solenoid go off, you know, the particular light will show up to show you that it's working. These are just 5-volt leads, you know, and then the ground's in the plug itself. So you have several of those. You got your special solenoids. Those are controlled by dip switches. So you select the dip switch, the solenoid, and then you press the little button, and it'll test those. All the connector cables. Here's your little LED tester. So that's every light, insert light that's in the game. So that shows if any lights are not working, you know, on the board itself. If you don't have the coin door things, that's a nice thing you can just slap on the board real quick to simulate the coin door buttons. Then the last big thing is this is your switch matrix. So you can basically test every switch just like they look just like it is in the matrix. You know, so you can try and find a switch, figure out if they all work. You can go through the whole switch matrix in about 30 seconds, you know, and see if everything's working. And like I said, you can actually do all these little test pieces you can actually do on the machine itself if you're having trouble before you even pull the board out, because you might have a wiring problem or a loose wire. You know, you put a switch isn't working, you put these things in and it works with this, you know, if the board's fine, so now you go on your wiring issue. So, you know, these can be used in both the WPC and the System 11 test kits. The next piece of equipment I want to talk about is a small, compact, portable DMD system. It's made out of the Pin2DMD software along with some panels from China. I've got it all packed in a box, and I use it to test data east boards. I can use my System 11 test kit, but obviously if they're DMD games, I don't have any way to test the screen, so I built this as something that I can use when I'm working on a board to test it. So let's take a look. All right, this is my portable DMD. Like I said, it's just a small little box that I got from Harbor Freight, small toolbox. And you open it up, and it actually has the two screens up top, but they're below each other, so it kind of a wraparound effect. But like I said, I'm just using it for testing, so it really doesn't matter as long as I get the information. Then the boards that I got to run the Pin2DMD system. And then for Data East, of course, you got to have the board. So I bought an extra DMD board that I have. Here's all the cables to run it. And then here's some of the other cables that you need to hook it to the boards and everything. So now I'll go over and we'll hook it up to my Data East Star Wars and kind of show you how it works. All right, so here we have it all hooked up to my Data East Star Wars. Now I'm not using my separate DE video board since I'm just doing a test. I'm just hooked it up to the standard board on the Star Wars just to say, but basically you'd hook it up the same way if you were using a board on a table. You would just hook the secondary board up just like this and hook it to it. So it's basically it's regular mode, all booted up, ready to go, and then we'll turn the machine on. And you can see right there, so it basically, you know, like I said, it's word wrapped basically, but it's there so you can actually do any kind of testing you need while you're working on a board on the stand and run through all your tests. You can read everything, go into diagnostics, and so I can still use the System 11 kit and then hook this up and I can work on a Data East board. Pretty cool little system, and like I said, once you're done, you just put it all up in a little thing and set it on the shelf until the next time you need it. Next thing I'll talk about is my vinyl cutter. A lot of you that have seen my pinball machines at shows, You know, you can see the kind of graphics that are on there. If you have a solid color graphics, and what I mean by that is not any dot matrix in there to vary the color, the cabinet decals basically can be replicated using a vinyl cutter. And so there's 24-inch wide vinyl that once you get the graphics done at the computer, this thing cuts it out. I usually will paint the first layer on the cabinet, clear coat it, and then I put these vinyl graphics on. And it's a much sharper look than the original, which to me it just makes them look so much better. Let's take a look. All right, this is my vinyl cutter. This is what I use mainly to cut graphics for all my cabinets. All my cabinets, Harley Davidson, Fire, Jurassic Park, they've all been done completely sanded down to wood using this to put the graphics back on it. And it's 24 inches wide. It's actually a Cutter Pros 2400 is the brand name. It's got stepper motors in it. I'm actually thinking of upgrading to a servo motor controlled unit here sometime in the future. I've had this thing probably 4 or 5 years, and it has paid for itself so many times over. It's great because not only do I do vinyl graphics for the cabinets, but I cut stencils when I'm airbrushing and stuff for the play fields and stuff. And so like here's a roll of the stencil material, and then this is just a roll of vinyl. So obviously you cut it, and then you weed out the stuff you don't need. When you're ready to put the stuff on, you use something like this. It's called application tape, where you actually put this on top of the vinyl, take the back off so it's just on this, and then you put that on whatever, you know, cabinet or whatever you're dealing with, and then pull the plastic off, and it leaves the vinyl on the cabinet. I use an old program, Paint Shop Pro, to do most of my graphic work, and then Corel to trace it. And I could possibly do a more in-depth video when I actually do my next project that uses this and give you all a kind of more of a tutorial on how it works. But the machines are great. They have a Silhouette, which is a small one that a lot of people use. You're probably going to have something this size if you want to do a cabinet, though, because some of the graphics get kind of big. But it's a great tool, and I use this thing all the time. So that's the vinyl cutter. And kind of in conjunction with my vinyl cutter, the way I get my graphics for most of my cabinets or even the play field is I use an HP scanner. And I use a 4760. I believe there's also a 4600 that is about the same thing. It's called a see-through scanner. Problem is they're about 10 years old. The only place you'll ever find them is on eBay. And there are some software issues, so basically you just use the generic scan. You can't use the software that comes with it unless you got a really old computer, but it works great. And so I'll kind of show you how I use it and then stitch the stuff together to get the graphics and my thought process behind all that. Let's take a look. All right, so this is the 4760 scanner that I talked about. It's made by HP, and like I said, it's about 10 years old, so you got to find them on eBay, but you can see it has a glass center, and so it really makes it easy to see what you're scanning. You see the little tick marks on here. That's a 20% tick marks because you want a 20% overlap when you're scanning something. So if I was going to scan, say, this explosion right here, I would start right here, scan it, and then I see where my 20% mark is, and then I would move it up and line the mark up with it, and then scan again, and then continue on. When I move it to the right or left, same thing, I'll use these marks till I get probably 6 or 9 pictures for this explosion, and then I use a program to stitch all those together, and then once I get them all stitched together, then I can actually use my paint program to clean it up. You know, if I want to change the color slightly or anything to it, I can do that in the paint program. But it's a really great scanner. I use it to scan all my play fields, all my cabinets. You know, I usually scan play fields before I even start working on them. So if anything's damaged by any kind of cleaning, I have a reference to it that I can make decals or vinyl or whatever. But like for this cabinet, since it's so big, I would actually scan each individual explosion as one scan, each missile as one scan, and then the airplane as a single scan, and then cut out all the vinyl, you know, to put on there individually after I paint it. And, you know, that's kind of the condensed version of how I do a cabinet. And once I do another cabinet, you know, I'll try and video it and give you a good idea of how it works. All my restoration threads on Pinside, show pictures of how I do it, but I'll try and add a video once I actually get things going. That's the scanner. It's great, and they're not very expensive at all on eBay. So I mean, if you want to get into restoring cabinets or anything, or even working on a playfield, I highly recommend them. They're great little scanners. When it comes to clear coating, first thing I'm going to say is it's dangerous. So please use precautions when you're clear coating. The stuff will kill you. I lost a cousin who was kind of a painter that probably didn't take the precautions he should several years ago at 35 years old. I don't play around with this stuff. I use every protective equipment I can. I not only wear a fresh air breathing respirator system, but I also wear under that the actual organic filters on a mask, which is probably overkill, but like I said, I just don't take any chances. Build myself a paint booth. I use HVLP guns. I use Sherwin-Williams. Finish One is the clear coat I've used for probably 5 or 6 years, and I love it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I've been using that for quite a while. I know there's a lot of choices in guns. I use the Bilbus. I think it's FPL4, and it's a great gun. I use that for clear coating, and then I just use a standard Harbor Freight gun for painting, and believe it or not, it works great. So I'll kind of show you my equipment, but like I said, there's so many varieties of this, but in generic, I use the HVLP system to do my clear coating on both the play fields and the cabinets. Let's take a look. All right, for when I shoot paint or clear, these are my guns. This is a cool little kit from Harbor Freight, and I use the big gun to do all my actual painting. I dilute my oil-based paint that I use with acetone, and man, it sprays through that gun perfectly. I just don't feel a need to upgrade it. It throws the paint on so well. And then this is my little bit more expensive gun that I use only for clear coating. I just don't use it for anything else. It's a FLG4 DeVilbiss, and I mean it's a great gun. And like I said, I only use it for clear coat, and it does a really nice job. This is my fresh air breathing system I wear when I clear coat or paint. It basically has this pump system with filters that actually sit out on the front porch, and I'll show you here in a second how I do that. It has a 100-foot hose right here that actually hooks into here and blows the air. It comes in and hooks on to this quick disconnect, and then you wear this thing all over your entire head. You can kind of see in there where it pulls the air out, and then the air actually exhausts out your neck. I also wear a mask inside that as well, just as an extra precaution, probably not needed. I wear a full Tyvek suit as well. But what I had them do when I built this shop for this hose, specifically for this, I actually had them put a dryer hole out the side, and it goes right out to the front porch. And so I actually put that hose through there to the front porch, and then I put that foam back around to seal it up, and then I actually paint. My booth will be set up over there, so the exhaust air goes out the front, but my fresh air is coming all the way from that side of the house over there. So I never have any kind of contamination or anything. I mean, just like I said, I just wanted the extra precaution of that fresh air breathing system. So this is the setup I use, and I've been using it for a couple years, and it works great. Next is my 3D printer. I got into 3D printing about 1.5 years ago, and it's kind of one of those things. I use it more than I thought I would. So it's a really great tool. I've made several mods for my machines using it, and I've made parts that you just can't find anymore. And so let's take a look. Here's my 3D printer. It's a CR10. It's the standard CR10. They haven't upgraded to CR10S now. I haven't upgraded it yet. It's done such a good job for me. I just haven't felt the need to upgrade it. It's a great printer. I print both PLA and ABS on it. Like I said, I use the program Blender and Cura along with this printer. And just to show you kind of what you can do with it, this game I'm working on, Target Zero. It's a night fighting game from 1970. There's actually the map over there. It's on a conveyor belt. Well, on the conveyor belt, when I bought this game, these little end caps are they're unobtainium. If they break, you're done. And so on this end cap, this little inside piece was completely broken off one end, and you just can't use it without it. So I did all the measurements to this thing and was able to actually print a replacement that's actually a completely perfect fit for the bushings, and inside screws in just like the normal one. That's tight as can be, and the tolerances are, I mean, it fits like a glove. So, you know, without that 3D printer, you know, I'm not sure what I'd have done to be able to fix that. So that's kind of an example of what you can do with those things, you know, not just fun stuff, but stuff you actually need. And to go along with the 3D printer, the software I use for designing is Blender. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of Blender. I kind of have a limited knowledge base of how to do it, but I've been able to make it work. I'll show you a few parts that I've done. I usually start with a solid kind of piece and then start taking things away. That way it's a better connection on where parts connect, if that makes any sense, than adding two parts together. It seems to print better when it was a solid object to begin with. And then I cut it with a program called Cura, and both of these are free. And then from Cura, then I send it to the printer. So here's a couple examples of some parts I've done, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. .3D printers aren't just for parts you need, but they're for fun too. This is actually the very first thing I ever printed with my printer. Now, I didn't design this, but I got it off a website called Thingiverse, and so I printed it up and I kind of use it as a companion to my Jurassic Park pinball machine, and I actually have it sitting on top of my Jurassic Park pachinko machine right now. So the outside is a real Barbasol can that I actually cut and trimmed to fit. And then the inside is all printed, and it has the vials in it that are labeled just like the movie, and it actually works, pops up. Just kind of a neat little thing. And it kind of taught me how to print. It's kind of neat stuff. You can see I got a little camera sitting on here. I've actually loaded this thing with a Raspberry Pi, and I use a program called Octoprint, and I actually can control this with my phone. You know, if I got a 2 or 3 hour print going, I'm sitting there watching TV in the living room, I can pull it up and see how the print's going without having to walk out here and check on it. You know, so if the thing popped off the glass or something, it's not just printing a snowball. You know, I can catch it. And, you know, sometimes you have 8 or 9 hour prints, and it's nice to be able to check on them without having to get up every 20 or 30 minutes, come out here and see what's going on. So, like I said, that little program is called Octoprint. It runs off a Raspberry Pi. And you can find plenty of videos on YouTube of how to install that. Now I got a bunch of kind of hand tools that I'll kind of go through and show you. Some of these things I worked for years using just what I had around, and then I spent the money on the tool, and life was so much easier when you had the right tools. And so I'll show you some of those, what I've done and kind of where you might find them. Got a few hand tools I'll show you. You know, a lot of people have a lot of tools, but these are kind of some tools that are a little out of the ordinary for a lot of people that just make life so much easier. This is actually a rivet press, a hand press, and a rivet squeezer. And man, this thing makes riveting almost a non-event. You know, so if you're doing any kind of plastics where you got to change out the rivets or something, man, I got this at Aircraft Spruce Specialty Company down in Atlanta. They have an online catalog, but oh my gosh, that tool I did for years the hard way until I got that tool. And the other one is ramp flaps. If you want to make your own, you got to get some spring steel. But you know, you can cut, you know, a pretty good ramp with just some shears, a good quality shears. But the problem is putting the holes in it. And Marco sells this little kit. You know, you just get the 1/8 inch die, put it in there, and I mean, you push that, snaps it out, and you're done. I mean, it's like I said, it's so much easier than doing it any other way. So I highly recommend that tool if you make any ramp flaps. Most other tools, you know, everybody's got kind of generics. I thought these are kind of some of the different ones that I've used just to make things a lot easier. If you end up having some cool tools that you can suggest, put it down in the comments, and maybe I'll even take a look, because I'm always looking for anything that makes things easier. At this point in time, I do all the work on my restorations myself with the exception of powder coating. I don't have the room for an oven, so I've never learned how to powder coat yet. So I do have a local guy that I use here for powder coating that does a great job. Once I get my new shop built, I plan on learning powder coating, and when I do that, I'll take you guys through the process of that. But that's really the only thing I don't do right now, but hopefully I'll learn in the future. And one thing I'll say about this is I'm not sponsored by anybody. If I tell you where I got something or what kind of product it is, it's because that's what I use. Now, if somebody wants to send me something to use, to try out, I'd be more than happy to review it. But just trying to explain that everything I show you is just something I actually use, and I wouldn't put it on here if I didn't like it. Well, that's about it for the equipment that I use. Hopefully I'll make some videos in the future when I actually use this stuff in action, show you a little bit more of the details on how it's done. But until then, if you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.